How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, for those that are joining us for the first time, welcome. My name is Luke, and I will be your host for today. And we're coming from Chiang Rai, Malaysia. Where else are we coming in from today? Bangkok, okay, Phuket, Geneva, Switzerland. My goodness, that is amazing. I am in Hua Hin, is where I am right now after some very, very heavy rain today. Yeah, so for those who are joining for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Webinar Wednesday. It's been a minute, hasn't it, Adrian? If you're there, for those of you who've been around for a long time, during 2020, what was that thing called? It starts with yeah, COVID. That was the one. Remember that? Like I was doing webinars every week for about 12 months in a row almost, and most of the time they were on a Wednesday. So it's Webinar Wednesday is back, baby. And so I've got a couple of topics to talk about over these next 3 or 4 weeks. So stay tuned to the email. You'll cop a couple of invitations to different webinars we'll be running over the coming weeks. But for today, we have a very nice little program entitled, what did I write down? Confident Facilitation. How you can be totally confident and own it whenever you're delivering a little presentation. So I'm going to follow through with some slides. Feel free to take any screenshots that you would like. And here's a little bit more. Okay, that's enough. Very good. It's like a blast from the past. So these tools that we'll be sharing today, this is the exact same tools that I use when I'm facilitating for multinational organizations all around the region. This works, right? As a master facilitator, these are the exact tools that I'm about to share with you that I use in every single session that I do. So please rest assured, these multinational companies, as you can see here, they keep coming back to Coachology because they do like our facilitation style. So I want to start with the obvious. Like we're here together for 1 hour, so I'm going to do my best to be short, sharp, and direct. And I would absolutely invite you to ask questions in the chat box. Unmute thyself if you have a question, and I'm going to ask some questions, and I would love for you to contribute. You can just drop it in the chat box. So, as you're probably aware, when it comes to facilitation, we have big groups and longer sessions, and then we have small groups and shorter sessions. Now, given this is a short session today, I'm going to focus on this category of facilitation today. And there are 4 main categories. I'm sure there's probably more. We're talking about meetings. Raise your hand nice and tall if you love meetings. Yeah, usually not many people. When you're doing brainstorming, right? Some kind of projects, or even group coaching. It could be problem solving, basically something with a group that is pretty much less than 2 hours. That's what we would call small groups with shorter sessions. So that's where our focus is going to be today. Now, let's get very, very clear with a definition first. Then we're going to look at the 3 biggest fears of facilitation. But let's get really, really clear. Facilitation is guiding a group's thinking with structure and energy to achieve a shared outcome. So, said quite simply, when you're working with the group is typically working towards a common goal, a shared outcome, whether it's solving the problem or getting the outputs needed from a meeting or doing the project. It's a shared outcome. Now, you, as the facilitator, you want to guide the group's thinking, which is not necessarily telling them what to do. That's going to be something else. That's going to be some kind of training or something else. And as a facilitator, you want to have a structure and a process that you follow that achieves the maximum results for the group. You see, if there's no structure, then you get people talking over each other. We spend time on things that are not useful. It can get quite emotional. There can be finger pointing and blaming. And ultimately, you don't get the outcomes that you want. So this is the definition of facilitation. Now, what do you think? And please share in the chat box. This is a question before I share my side. What are the biggest fears of facilitation? Now, again, I can see in the group that some of you are seasoned facilitators. You could do this in your sleep. I can see that others are brand new to facilitation and the rest of you somewhere in the middle. So in your experiences, it's time to facilitate that thing, that meeting, that discussion, that, why did that project fail? What happened with this initiative? And you need to have this group meeting. Tell me, what has been your biggest fear? Tell me into the chat box, please. Okay, going over to the chat box. Suck on somewhere. Thanks, Adrian. I'm just checking where people are from. All right. Yes, lack of engagement, right? So you're trying to facilitate this process and you hear the crickets, and the tumbleweeds. Yeah, no one talks. Oh, yeah, that's awkward. What else? Yeah, fear of being wrong. Thank you, Pateri. Yeah, no one likes to be humiliated. No one likes to kind of look bad by being wrong or saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. Thank you for sharing. Yep, nice one, Yik. Yeah, being judged. Raise your hand if you like to be judged. Yep, no one. I don't see any hands. Surprises. In Thai, we say 𝒒𝒑, which is kind of like a nice word for the word surprise. But no, we don't normally like surprises. Why? Because a surprise is most of the time outside of our control. And if it's outside of our control, then we don't have control over it and it can break our state. What else have we got here? Tell me in the chat box. Yeah, not knowing what to say. Thank you, Bharati. Opposition. Oh, yeah. Don't you love those troublemakers where you say something, you're kind of doing your thing, you're doing it your way, and you get some kind of opposition or resistance. Ooh, that's a tough one. Thank you. Off topic. Yeah, so here's the outcome. Why are we over here? What is the point on talking about all of this stuff? We should be over here. So again, as the facilitator, when things do go off topic, it's up to us to bring it back, right? And I'm going to mention this multiple times today, when you are facilitating, you are the driver, right? You are guiding this structured process. Now, again, by creating the structure, it actually gives people the opportunity to share, which is exactly what you want when you are facilitating. If you knew all of the answers, then you wouldn't have that meeting. You wouldn't have that session, and you just sit in your office and you do the thing. But instead, we want to include engagement from others. Oh, yeah, unresponsive. Yep. Everyone looking at their laptops. Oh, isn't that great? You're doing your best, you're putting energy in there, and you just hit click, 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 and they are not even there. Not being able to control the discussion, so people go off topic. Key members resigning suddenly. Ooh, yeah, that's fun. Arguing in conflicts, closed-minded people in authority. Oh, if I had an answer to that one, I think we'd all live a much happier life. And I do have a couple of tips for you. Fear of being challenged, not knowing how to reply. I have a tip there for you coming soon. Certain people only working with selective people in interest close to them. Yeah, some kind of favoritism. All right. So thank you everyone for sharing. That really is amazing. So some of the biggest fears are nervousness or self-doubt, which some of you touched on there a moment ago, right? Not knowing what to say or handling the conflict and all of these kinds of things, these surprises, that comes down to us being nervous or anxious. or having self-doubt, which simply means doubt in our own ability. Now, who can tell me what is the opposite of nervous or self-doubt? Tell me in the chat box, please. What is the opposite of nervous or self-doubt? Yeah, self-belief, excited, confidence. Yep, confidence is the nice summary word. Now, confidence, here's the thing about confidence. It's a very interesting topic. In fact, one of the webinars coming up next week or the week after is even more detailed about confidence. Confidence is not necessarily knowing all of the answers, but trusting enough in yourself, that self-belief that whatever happens, you'll be able to get through it, right? And so that's one definition of confidence. Of course, confidence also is knowing all of the answers and knowing your content inside and out and being able to deliver it because you are unconsciously competent and super, super skilled in that topic that you're talking about. So confidence is the answer to nervous and self-doubt. Let's look at the next one. Losing control of the room. Some of you mentioned that there. So what is the opposite of losing control of the room? That one's an easy one. Controlling the room. That's right. And that's your job as a facilitator. Now, just to clarify, to have control of the room is not to be King Kong. Having control of the room is not to be arrogant or better than. It's just that you are firm in that you are in the driver's seat and the rest of the group, they are on the ride with you, right? And so sometimes you do need to display your authority in order to keep the conversation moving in the direction that you want it to go. And then finally, handling difficult participants. Now, I affectionately call them troublemakers, right? They make trouble in various ways, such as talking too much, not talking enough. And we'll look at some of those elements on how to deal with those difficult participants. So here is the solution. Here is the key to help you to facilitate with confidence at your next meeting, whether that's tomorrow or the day after. It is important that you facilitate at your pace. Those of you who know me a little bit, you know I love my acronyms. So guess what's coming up? That's right. It's an acronym where P stands for presence and confidence. Pretty obvious. That covers the self-doubt and that nervousness that we mentioned already. And presence means that when you are in the present moment, you have the ability to adapt and adjust to the needs of the group, right? Facilitation is not following a script, you know, dot by dot, line by line. Yes, you can have some bullet points. Yes, you can have a PowerPoint like I'm using here. And facilitation, you must be adaptable and flexible to go with the flow, to go with the needs of the group. That's the key part of facilitation. And you can only do that when you're in the present moment, right? If you're totally in your head talking to yourself about, oh, look at the way he's looking at me. Oh, I don't think he believes me. Oh, why are they looking on their computer? Oh my goodness, they don't believe what I'm saying. All of that self-talk, you will crash and burn. So you need to get out of your head. Tony Robbins says it very elegantly. When you're in your head, you're dead, right? And that's what happens. You lose your emotional state, you lose your confidence. And guess what? Most of the stuff that you're talking about is totally mind read hallucination and never ever comes true. So presence and confidence. A, I wonder what A could stand for. Let's find out. Align with a pre-frame. So align means get the group into an alignment, and you do that with the linguistic tool called a pre-frame. A pre-frame is simply sharing your expectations in advance in a kind of, it doesn't feel direct. It's not like a command, yet it is a set of instructions of what is about to happen. And what you'll find is with a pre-frame, and I've got plenty of examples I'm going to share with you, you can absolutely control the room. The pre-frame gives you the structure. The pre-frame is like sharing the rules of engagement. It's telling the people what is about to happen, and they're either on the train or they're off the train. Yeah. And so the purpose of the pre-frame is to set the context of that meeting, that session, that discussion, where you're setting the rules of engagement, and it makes it crystal clear. So everyone is on the same page. C, as you facilitate at your own pace, is connect and, of course, collaborate. Right? The whole purpose of a meeting is you want collaboration and synergy, right? Otherwise, you would sit in your office and you would do it by yourself. So the very nature of a group session, whether it's a meeting or whatever, yes, it's exchanging thoughts, it's updating on workflows and action plans and all of that. And a lot of times you want to have that ability where 1 + 1 = 3. And you only get that through true collaboration and synergy. So you need to be able to connect with your group, and then you need to be able to get the group to collaborate. And E is empower action. Empower action. So for those of you that want, you can take a screenshot now. And by the way, this will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you do need to log off early, or you want to review it, or you want to share it with a colleague, then by all means, check on YouTube later tonight about 10 o'clock Thai time, and you should find it there. Right? So empowered actions, think about it. If you have this beautiful meeting and everyone is involved and they're following your instructions and there's awesome collaboration, and then you say, okay, bye. Well, what's next? Right? You need to wrap up whatever session you're doing, whether it's short, sharp 15-minute session, 30 minutes or an hour, a project, a KPI, a problem solving, whatever it is. There needs to be some kind of accountability and responsibility after the session, because you're not going to do it all yourself, and you can't palm it all off to Somchai or Mary or whoever else. No, if it's a true collaboration within the group, then there'll be different members of the group will have different roles and responsibilities and accountability to get that stuff done, right? I think so much time is wasted in organizations these days where someone is still waiting for someone else to deliver that thing, whatever that thing was, a report, their piece of the project. Even though it was somehow agreed, maybe it got lost in translation. Maybe there was no strong accountability to say, look, we need this thing done by this point here. So this is what we mean by empower. All right. So far, so good. I'm just quickly checking the chat box to see if I've missed anything. Okay, we are good. Okay, thank you. Let's rock and roll to the next one. All right, so I'm going to work through these one by one. We're going to start with P for presence and confidence. And obviously, presence and confidence, they do work hand in hand. The confidence gives you the presence. If you can be present in the moment, that will give you confidence. So they actually work hand in hand. And here are the key tips that you need to manage for yourself first, right? Here's the thing. Technically, this is happening before your session, right? You need to be in a peak emotional state. You need to be totally confident. You need to own that room wherever you are, whether it's a meeting room, whether it's a stand-up meeting, whether it is a webinar or a virtual meeting, whatever it is, you've got to own it. And so this is the work that you need to do before you open the door and step in there. Right, so this might sound obvious, but please do not underestimate any of these things. I mean, I could talk about each of these chunks here for an hour, so I do need to move a little bit quickly. Be prepared, right? That's a good way to be more confident. So do whatever homework you need to do. Make your slides, make your bullet points, do your reminders, do whatever you need to do so you don't lose track. You know, one area where a lot of people lose their state, that when that self-doubt comes in, they might have got distracted by a difficult participant or a tough question, and then they lose their spot. So it's okay to use a PowerPoint like I am now. It's okay to have flashcards or a bullet point list or whatever you need to do, especially in the beginning, right? People don't really care. Yeah, you can follow a bullet point summary and that'll be totally okay. Make sure, especially as a lot of sessions these days are either hybrid or virtual, or you need to book a meeting room if you're in a bigger multinational company. So send your invites to whoever you need to do. Send the reminders, right? Like you've all heard it before, like the meeting finishes, John didn't show up. You see John, where were you? Oh, I didn't get the invite, right? So yeah, make sure you send the invites. Know your stuff, right? So as you're doing your homework and you're doing your research, you know, practice it a little bit if you need to. Do a dry run if you need to. Record yourself shouting at the computer if you need to watch yourself back. You need to know it. Now, this is important and often is not done. And so a lot of what I'm sharing today, in addition to being able to facilitate with confidence, it's also about having a very efficient use of time. Remember, as you facilitate with confidence, it's going to be more efficient, you're going to get more done, and you're going to get it done in less time. So please, if you do have a meeting coming up, and meetings are a really good place to start. Chances are, on average, you're all in about 6 to 10 meetings per week. I know some of you a lot more, maybe some of you a little bit less. So practicing with a meeting before doing any fancy presentation or whatever is a really, really good place to start, because you're already doing 6 of them a week, right? So here, let me repeat this part then. Inform the participants ahead of time what they need to prepare, right? Tell them in advance, you know, hey, Mary, you know, we've got this meeting on Thursday. Can you please make sure you have this, and this ready? Yeah, Frank, same on this meeting. Can you dig up some information on ABC, right? And so on and so on. Because if they turn up to the meeting and then you spring it on them, hey, Mary, do you have those numbers from last quarter? Yeah, hang on a second. Now the laptop is opened and she's fiddling around. And of course, that's the time her laptop needs to do what do they call a systems update, right? Because there's a new software or something. So now you're waiting for Mary, and now the pressure's on Mary, and Mary feels really, really bad, and she's going to blame you. No one likes to look stupid. I'll just use direct language here, guys. We're all adults. No one looks to look stupid. No one likes to be talked down to. No one likes to be made to look like a fool in the presence of others. So help them to help you by sending them personal messages and letting them know what they need to prepare in advance, which could simply be, I need your ideas, right? You know, 𝒒𝒐𝒐, we've got this big problem coming up, and I'd love it if you can do a little bit of customer, what are they called? Competition. Do some research on the competition. Let's see what they're doing with their product A, B, and C. Can you collect that data for me? Have a look at that first, and then I'd love to get some ideas on what you think might be able to help us with problem X. So again, you're making an efficient use of time. If you need your agenda, if you need your checklist, right? Did I send the invitations? Did I send the reminders? Did I inform people what they need to bring? Did I book the meeting room? Did I arrange the coffee or the drinks or the mints or the pencils or whatever you need to do? Put it down as a checklist. If you know you forget stuff, then make a checklist. Check your tech. Now, for some of you who are a little bit more mature like me, I need to remind myself regularly that I love technology and technology loves me. Because in the past, I did not have a good relationship with technology and weird stuff would happen all of the time. So check your tech. Make sure your laptop is updated, that your clicker has batteries, your flip charts, your markers, any other media. If you're playing videos, check the sound, right? Do whatever you need to do in advance before the meeting starts. The quickest way to break your confidence is, as someone mentioned before, is surprise, 𝒒𝒑𝒐𝒏𝒏. When something doesn't work and it's technology based, if you're the younger generation, maybe no big deal. But for us oldies, it can really, what we call, break your state, right? Confidence is an emotional state. Passion is an emotional state. So when something goes wrong, it can break your state, right? Now, I will share with you some techniques of what happens when you do get surprises. And it's better to prevent the surprises, please. So check your tech. Focus on what you want. Now, this is quite important. Very simply, those feelings of anxiety, that nervousness, that is a result of you focusing on what you don't want. So when many people go into a meeting or a brainstorming session or problem solving or whatever, they're always thinking worst case scenarios. Oh, Jim is going to push back on this idea, or oh, the boss isn't going to let me finish my sentence, and oh, you know, Mary's always late, but I need her input, and whenever you're focusing on the things that you don't want to happen, here comes your anxiety, and your anxiety is saying, hi. So anxiety is a clue to change your focus on what you do want, right? And the pre-frame is going to help you with that. Incantation, affirmations, confident body language and voice. You must have the most dominant energy in the room. Now, again, I don't mean King Kong, not like that. What I do mean is you need to be in a peak emotional state. You have to keep your energy up. Your participants, the people in the group, they will not have a higher energy than you, right? They're always going to be down here. So if your energy is down here, guess where they're going to be, right? And I have seen enough food coma in my life as I run workshops all around the region, all around the world. When people come back from their lunch break, what normally happens? It could be the best content in the world, and that food coma is going to happen. So, so don't overeat at lunch, right? That's my trick to myself. You got to maintain your energy. There's more likelihood that you'll bring the energy of the room up. Practice and practice and practice. Again, start with meetings, right? Start in a group where you know you already have good rapport, right? Where you know you don't have to deal with troublemakers on your first round. Practice these techniques in a group that you have a very good rapport and trust with, and practice some of these techniques with them. Remind yourself this is your meeting and I'm in control. Not to be arrogant, but to simply be the authority in the driver's seat for that session. Cool. Now, I think a chat popped up. No worries. Okay, a pre-frame. This is one of my favorites, guys. If you forget everything else, just remember this for today, okay? A pre-frame is simply sharing your expectations in advance at the very beginning of the session. It gets everyone onto the same page. This can include things like time frame, the purpose of the meeting, the outputs expected, the contributions expected, etc. Now, here are some very common and simple pre-frames, right? So a pre-frame is a linguistic pattern. It's a pattern of words in a certain order and sequence to achieve an outcome. In this context, a pre-frame is sharing your expectations in advance to get everyone into an alignment. So let's start with some simple ones. Thanks for being on time, everyone. The purpose of this meeting today is So purpose, very similar to agenda. Like purpose, though, is a little bit higher. Purpose is why are we here? Why should I care? Right? So some people will be thinking that you've seen it, you've done it. I won't tell anyone if you don't. You turn up to a meeting and you look around the room and you think to yourself, why the hell am I here? What is going on? And then the leader, the facilitator, they just ramble on and you're 30 minutes in before you know why you're there. So that's an example of a pre-frame. Okay, team, we have just 30 minutes today, so let's get right into it. So what have you done here? You've pre-framed that we have 30 minutes. Going over is not an option. Now, why does this matter? Let's imagine you've said this. Okay, team, we've got 30 minutes. Let's go. Now we're going through and then we get to Tom. And Tom is a talker. Oh, Tom. And Tom is going and Tom is going. You've seen them in the meetings. You know who I'm talking about. And they go on and on and on. So when you get the point, you can say, Tom. Okay. And by the way, this is the gesture that I love to do. To interrupt someone politely, I simply go, right? I'll do it again. Something like that. Something a bit light and a little bit playful, I find works a charm. And I've done this all around the world with all sorts of people. And I mean, like from super ego King Kong to super senior to junior. Clear? Remember, we've only got 30 minutes. Let's continue. So I can remind them about the pre-frame. And then I continue on. Thanks, team. So in today's session, my expectation is that everyone contributes. I want you to know there's no bad ideas. There's simply ideas. The more ideas we collect, the better we can build on these ideas to solve this challenge that we're facing. All right. So everyone contribute. Get ready. I'm going to ask you shortly. Let's go. Right. And then you start the process, right? You start the meeting and you can combine these. You can put a bit of purpose in here. We've only got 30 minutes. I expect everyone to contribute. Okay, so today we'll be focusing on these key points. That's another way of saying the agenda. Or by the end of today, I want these outputs. Output 1, output 2, output 3. So now we know the end goal, right? So outcomes, or another word here is outputs, right? What are we putting out from this session? So output, outcome, what's the key points, what's the goal? You decide, right? As long as you're following this structure, you can literally say anything you want, as long as you structure it in this way. The outputs that we need from this session are: today, I kindly request respectful listening and no finger pointing. So, for example, if you know you're going to talk about this problem that happened last week where the customer was really angry, or this happened or that happened, you know it could be a little bit volatile, it could be a little bit of emotion involved. So you set the pre-frame here. Now, what happens when someone is not listening and they start talking over each other? What do you do? Hey guys, come on, time out. Remember, we agreed that this was going to be respectful listening and no finger pointing. Please, one person at a time. Mary, please continue. Yeah? Next one. All right, all right, team, we're really tight on time for today, so I'll be very direct and to the point. Right? So again, if you know, sometimes you've only got 10 or 15 minutes, right? You're between meetings or running around, so it's okay. If you say, listen, team, we've got to get this, I've got a plane to catch, we've got 10 minutes, I'm going to be very direct and very to the point, let's go. Now, so now people, they know what your expectations are. So they'll be more likely to fall into line to your expectations because you're running the show. This is your session and you get to control it the way that you want. You get to set the rules for engagement. That's what this is. Optionally and preferably, after you've said your little pre-frame, you can say, is that good for everyone? Excellent. You don't even need to wait for a response, right? 99% of the time, they'll go, right? Even if they don't agree, because you've said it in this beautiful, elegant way, because do you get it? It sounds like a command, but it's not, right? It's a much more gentle way to set the frame of the conversation that is about to happen. So is that good for everyone? Yep. Okay, cool. Mary, go for it. And then Mary, blah, 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 does her thing. All right. Now, again, if you know that you're running out of time, you might say, okay, yep. Got it. Remember, we got just 15 minutes remaining. Next one, please. Let's go. That's okay, right? You've told them that you're going to interrupt them. You've told them that you have very, very limited time. And so that's okay, right? We call that a pattern interrupt. When someone is going on and on and on, or they've run over their time, just say, okay, yep. Got it, clear. Let's be respectful of time. We want everyone to share. John, go ahead. Cool. Any questions on align with a pre-frame? All good? Clear? Connect and calibrate. So to connect is to build rapport and psychological safety within the group. Now, this is super, super important. And this is a little bit of a skill that you need to be able to develop, where you can naturally and organically build rapport and psychological safety with other people. I am going to give you a few tips, and it will take practice, and it'll take practice, and it'll take practice. You must be able to build this rapport, this connection, and this psychological safety in order for the group to be able to collaborate. If there's no connection and rapport, you'll have very limited collaboration. So to connect, to build the rapport and the psychological safety, that's the most important thing. If you can focus on that, then the collaboration will come organically, right? Especially if you've set the pre-frame. Well, think about it. Let's rewind a little bit. If you can be confident and present, yeah, if you can then have that pre-frame, you align with your pre-frame, then you've set the groundwork to be able to connect and then therefore be able to collaborate. And of course, I have some tips for you. Be mindful of your own communication, especially body language and tonality. So some of you I've met before face-to-face, others we've not met before, but what you probably don't know is I'm 2 meters tall and 100 something kilo. So I take up a lot of physical space in the room, and sometimes I forget. And when I'm going off on a little bit of a rant, when I'm fully passionate about something, I forget that sometimes it's very loud and it's kind of, like, and I've seen it enough times in some audiences. For example, when I facilitated in Tokyo, Japan, my energy was up here, but the group, their energy was here. And so I was 5 to 10 minutes into telling my story, how excited I was to be here. And when I looked around the room, the faces were like this. Now, this isn't a Japan thing. It was simply because my communication style was very, very different to that group. Their business was not succeeding or thriving, which is why they got me in, but they didn't know who I was. All they saw was a 2-meter loud kangaroo, because I'm from Australia. And so, no, it did not create a safe environment. So I needed to pace and lead the room, which is simply to say, I took my energy and I lowered my energy. I slowed down. I changed the speed of my voice. I spoke more softly. I was more gentle with my physiology, with my body language. I stepped back a little bit to give them that safe space. And then I told them stories for about 45 minutes about my backpacking adventures around the world. And so as I adjusted my communication to match them, to move at their speed. That is what created this rapport and this psychological safety. Now, by the end of day one, we were connected. We went out for dinner, hey, compare, and we had a great time. But no, those first 30 to 60 minutes, that was a real, that was real tough. And it's not up to them to change. They don't know. The boss forced them to be in the room. They're like, oh my God, who is this? So it was up to me to adjust my communication style, which is what we're saying right here. Know your audience and adjust your style to the audience. So if you're doing a session with kids, you better be more playful and energetic in the way that you're communicating with kids. If you're working with a room full of executives, you will not go up to them and say, ooh, kuchi kuchi ku, monkey-o, we say in Thai. You are not going to do that to a room full of executives. So adjust to your audience and adjust your communication style to your audience. Acknowledge the input of others. So as people do start to share, thank you. Nice. I appreciate that. Awesome. Just be mindful not to play favorites, right? So when Billy shares something, say, oh, Billy, yeah, I like it. No, you need to keep, you need to be fair with the group. You don't need to isolate the group, and you don't want to play favorites or have bias. So a simple acknowledgement, thank you, good job, I like it. Yep, keep it up. What's another one? Let's go. Oh, very nice, right? Just give that positive reinforcement. As you give that positive reinforcement, you're showing them that this is safe. There's no judgment, right? And as they feel safe, they're going to speak up more, and they're going to speak up more, and they're going to speak up more. Listen and take notes, right? So a lot of the time during the facilitation, the group is actually doing most of the work, right? They're the ones coming up with the ideas. They're the ones putting things together. They're the ones that might be prioritizing, for example. Remember, you are the leader of the session. You are facilitating and guiding the group. So listen, right? Listen really carefully. And when you're listening and you're taking notes, that helps to keep you out of your head so that you can be more present. So do your best to not interrupt, except when necessary. And you need to do the minimize turning your back, right? So a rookie mistake is you're always turning your back. You're writing things on the flip chart, or you're reading from your PowerPoint. Now, of course, you need to do that sometimes. And if you want to stay connected with your group, you need to maintain that eye contact as much as possible, which is simply laptops closed. Now, of course, it depends, right? If you're sharing data and information and reports and so on, it might be as part of that group that they do need to be working on their laptop doing the worky thing. And that's okay, right? That's kind of, if that's the expectation, then do that. However, generally, I did a session in Bangkok about a week or so ago. It was 2 days in a row. It was a fast-moving consumer good. They got a lot going on, these guys. And so when it was time to start, I said, okay, thanks, everyone. Everyone got their tea and their coffee? Okay, you've got 1 minute, please, to finish that email. And I kindly request that you close your laptops, please. We'll have time for breaks later. We'll have time for lunch later. And we might even be able to have a shorter lunch to give you 10 or 15 minutes to catch up on some urgent stuff. How does that sound, everyone? Yep, excellent, good. And of course, I didn't wait for them to say, yes, Mr. Luke. I just assumed that they would follow the instructions, and they did. Ask questions, right? If you want the group to speak up and you want the group to share, that means less talking from you. The more you're talking, the less that they are talking. So if you want them to get engaged, right, which I know that some of you do, then the more questions that you ask, the better. Now, here's the thing though, here's the trick. Remember I mentioned pacing and leading. Don't be too full on with your questions at the beginning of the session, right? You need to establish this psychological safety first. right? So you can maybe leverage from the extrovert in the room and you can say, Bill, take it away. Bill, what do you got? And then Bill shares, and then you say, okay, who's next, please? Or you could say to yourself, you could answer your own question. It sounds like this. Look, I know some of you are probably thinking blah, 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 blah. Well, blah, 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 blah. And then you can tell them that thing. Basically, you're answering your own question, and then you're showing them, here's the key point, write this down. You're showing them it is safe to engage. And so some people, those who are a bit more reserved, they need to see other people doing it first. And that's okay. Just that's part of the mechanics of being human. Build on ideas, right? So this is not to say that every idea is a golden idea. And often this little spark of an idea connects with this little spark and then lead into a bigger spark and lead into something. Even the crazy or outrageous ideas, no judgment on the ideas. Diffuse any heated emotions, blaming, or troublemakers. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. So psychological safety is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes, right? In fact, as a facilitator, as a leader, you want people to speak up with ideas. You want them to ask questions. You want them to raise their concerns. Chances are there's something that they know that you don't know, that if you did know could really affect the direction of that project, that problem solving, or that whatever. And we need to be able to talk about our mistakes in order that we can learn and grow from them. Yes or yes? Exactly. All right, this is the quickest hour of my week, but we're doing good, guys. We're in the home stretch. Facilitate at your pace. E is empower actions. At the end of the meeting or the session, it is essential to clarify roles and responsibilities with by whens, right? Don't assume. Don't leave it blank. Don't think that people will just do stuff, right? Because you ask nicely. So a couple of tips here. Of course, you can use AI for taking notes and summaries. You do not need to do it manually anymore. As you're wrapping up your conversation, the group thing, the meeting, do we have any concerns about this? Right? So if you've come up with some action plans, you want to flush out any concerns at this point. Obviously, you need psychological safety for people to be able to raise their concerns, right? So create that safe space and ask that question. Better to find out now in the meeting than it pops up a week later where someone had that concern, but they didn't feel they had the opportunity to share it, and then now it's too late. What else can you say here? Any questions? Any questions before we wrap up? Anyone? Anything? Now's the time. No? Okay. Finally, and this is and or, so you can do this, you can do these in succession or one at a time. What support do you need? What support do you need? If you don't ask it, then you haven't really done your best, right? Some of you might have concerns about asking about concerns because you think, oh, Mary's going to raise 10 concerns and it's going to take us off the track because we've only got 10 minutes remaining. I promise you it's better to flush them out now, sooner rather than later. Be sure to lock in the who's and by when's and that there is a logical flow. What do I mean by logical flow? Is you need to make sure if this is going to be done by then, well, what needs to be done before then in some kind of order and sequence? Sometimes, this thing needs this thing to be done, but this has a date after the big thing. So just make sure there's some kind of order and sequence in the flow. Follow up with one-on-ones if necessary to maximize the engagement, right? So if you do run short or you did see that someone had a concern, but they were a little bit like, ooh, then you might want to follow up with them with a one-on-one. close the meeting by thanking everyone and re-acknowledging your agenda and or pre-frame. So thanks everyone. I really appreciate the contributions today. I love it that we finished on time. Thank you for allowing the conversation to be very direct and to the point. We've got some really, really good outputs today, and I look forward to hearing the next steps from each of you. Everyone's clear on their roles and responsibilities? Yep. Okay, awesome, fantastic. Have a great day. Boom, done. Now, here's a good one. Whatever actions that you agreed to do, especially in the area of support, do them ASAP, right? For the simple reason that you want to lead by example, right? So if they said, yeah, actually, boss, I need X, I need Y, I need Z, then you don't have to necessarily do it yourself. You can perhaps delegate it, but I want you to get it done quickly, right? If there are many moving parts in this thing that you're talking about, then the sooner you get stuff done, the better. So you want to lead by example there, that if you have some roles and responsibilities, get them done ASAP. Awesome. Okay, troublemakers, we're in the home stretch. I know you're all waiting for this bit. I've got a full 9 minutes. Let's go. So troublemakers can show up in various forms. Here is how to handle them. The dominator. So the dominator can be the one that is talking too loud. They're talking too long. They are dominating the space, right? And they think they're the smartest person in the room, and they like to tell everyone about it. It can show up like King Kong, like a big ego. So the best way to handle them, because you know who they are, right? You know who they are. So especially if it's a regular kind of meeting, whether that's once a month or once a quarter or per project, you know who that person is. So you meet them beforehand and you pre-frame them. So for example, I might say something like, and of course we're just playing here. Let's imagine for a moment that 𝒂𝒏𝒏 here is the dominator. Then I would say, 𝒂𝒏𝒏, you have a couple of minutes for a quick chat? Yep. Awesome, 𝒂𝒏𝒏. So listen, we've got this meeting coming up this afternoon, and I know that you've got a lot of awesome ideas. I know how creative you are. And, you know, I just love your confidence, how it oozes out. And for this meeting today, I'd like to try something a little bit different. Would you mind just taking a little bit more of a back seat today? You see, what happens with is your confidence, other people, they don't feel quite safe to share and speak up. I know, 𝒂𝒏𝒏, I know. And it's just an experiment. All right, I want to try this experiment. I really want to encourage some of this younger generation to speak up. Then I will give you the opportunity, short, sharp, and sweet, at the end of each key point. Would that be okay for you, 𝒂𝒏𝒏?
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. Yep, and you do it like that. Something like that. You tell them in advance that you're going to do something a little bit different. You're not criticizing them. You don't, right? You're just letting them know you need to stroke their ego a little bit. Like, yes, you're very creative, and yes, you're super confident, and oh my goodness, that's okay, right? Because you have an outcome that you want to achieve. The silent ones. Also, meet with them before the meeting. And again, you know who the silent ones are. Give them the heads up that you expect them to share, right? So, you know, Billy, you know, often in the meetings, I feel that you've got a creative idea to share. And today I would love you to share that, right? I want you to know that I'm going to create a really safe space for the whole team. And I just invite you to share, because there's so much creativity in there. And I don't know what I don't know about what you've got in there. So please prepare yourself. I am going to ask for some ideas about this. Maybe you could do a little bit of prep, or do whatever you need to do. And I'd like you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Yep. Is that cool, Billy? Awesome. Thank you. Rudeness. Some people are just a-holes. They can't help themselves. So when participants are rude, disrespectful, or angry, or any kind of thing like that, interrupt them and remind them of your pre-frame guidelines. What does that sound like? John, remember we said no finger pointing, no blaming. We're going to have a respectful conversation. Do you recall that, John? Yes or no? Great. Let's please keep it on track, and please let's remain respectful, right? So it's okay to interrupt them. If you're losing control of the meeting, you need to regain control of the meeting. Again, you can interrupt them and say, yep, John, okay, we got it. Very clear. Thank you for sharing. Let's move on. So you can acknowledge them briefly. You don't have to agree with them. You can just say, we've got it. Clear. Right? I can appreciate your point of view and let's move on. Now, this is a bit more advanced and I've already done it here a little bit. So if they're being rude and this is their energy, you want to meet them near their energy, not over the top because that's going to blow up, but just a little bit down. And then you use your tonality to diffuse the situation. So for example, if John is in my ear, blah, 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 I would say, John, okay, we've got it. Can we move on now, please? Remember, we have very limited time. So I use the volume of my voice to get close to where they're at. And then using my tonality, I will begin to slow it down. I will speak softer and slower and more gentle. And that's a verbal way of pacing and leading. Pacing them where they're at and then leading them to a calmer place. Address severe cases one-on-one with them. Right? So again, use any of these that you need to do. And then as soon as is possible and practical, have a one-on-one with them and you'll give them direct feedback. Don't try and do it inside of the meeting. Just say, John, stop it. Enough. Thank you. John, take a breath. You and I can discuss this afterwards. For the rest of us, let's continue. So again, this is rare cases where you will need to display your authority, and the voice is the best way you can do it. You don't want to lose your emotional control. You want to remain confident and you want to remain present. Using your tonality is a good way to, believe it or not, connect with these troublemakers. Tough questions. Here is my go-to. If anyone asks me a tough question and I don't know, I simply say, that is a great question. Let me get back to you. Right? You don't have to answer every single question within a nanosecond. It's okay to give yourself some time. Now, what happens many times when I say that, it pops into my head 30 seconds later. So I'll say, John, whoa, I love the quality of that question. That is, you really put some thought into that. Thank you. Let's park that for a sec. I'll come back to you. Yeah. Now, what will happen, maybe a minute later, you'll get the answer and you'll say, oh, John, just to come back to that awesome question, blah, blah, blah. If not, it's okay, right? Go up to John after the meeting and say, great question, John. Let me get back to you, right? And then you make him feel important. All right, what's in the chat box here? Okay, yep, no worries. Good, okay, next one. What other troublemakers, guys? Tell me. In your facilitations, what other troublemakers have you met? Tell me into the chat box. But these are the kind of the 3 or 4 main types that I could think of. So any questions, you can drop them into the chat box. Now, remember, what we were talking about today were those shorter sessions with smaller groups. And you might be curious, Luke, what do we do for the longer sessions with the bigger groups? I'm glad you asked. The answer, my friends, is the Facilitator Training Program, which is the evolution of the Train the Trainer. Now, as we've talked about before, facilitation and training is different. Training is awesome. Training is sharing information, usually following a very strict set of bullet points and agenda and so on. Facilitation, yes, you can have an agenda and a flow, but you can also adapt and be adjustable. So in this 2-day facilitator program, we teach you how to do that. How do I hear you ask? You will master your facilitation with the facilitator's code. That's right. It's an acronym. I wonder what code stands for. You will learn how to create your presentation, whether you want to do a webinar like this, whether you need to do some onboarding meeting with a new employee, maybe you have a passion project that you want to work on, you're doing this, you're doing that, whatever, you need to take these ideas from here and you need to put it in some format that other humans understand. So you will learn how to create what you want to create. Own it. You need to own it in your body. This is another word for total confidence. We've talked about presence and confidence today, and you need to be able to take it to another level. When you're facilitating, there's going to be more surprises, right? As opposed to, say, a set regular meeting with the same faces and the same people. Facilitation will be often varied with a lot more variables. You need to know how to deal with that. Then, once you've created what you've created, you've owned it internally. It is yours. It's now time to deliver, right? And so you need to know your audience. You need to know the layout of the room. Is it virtual? Is it face-to-face? And all of these other things on how to deliver it in a way that your audience will get it and they will love it and they'll want to learn with you some more. And then finally, engage. So we just talked a tiny bit about troublemakers today. We're going to unpack the whole lot. We're going to talk about activities, how you can build your activities. We're going to talk about how you can use AI in both the creation and the engagement path, plus more and more and more. And so the regular investment is 29,000. Of course, we have a very special webinar investment today of just 17,500 baht. The dates are the 9th and 10th of October in Bangkok from 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock there at the Valier Hotel. And if you are representing an organization, of course, we can create a proposal. And if you ask nicely, there are group discounts. So we do have organizations that are drip feeding 2 or 3 or 4 people each time we run this program. So if you do want to increase the presentation skills of your team, this is the place to start. It's only 2 days, easy peasy. Lunch is included. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, did you say? Did you know my training career started with learning NLP? It's a 5-day program. Within the NLP is 30 to 40 different tools and techniques, most of them around communication, including influence, and emotional intelligence, which is basically a way to build up your confidence. Super special webinar. Special, only 50,000 baht. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the way to facilitate with confidence. Let me quickly check if there were any chat questions. Have to go at 7 o'clock. No worries at all. So I hope you enjoyed the session today, everybody. Thank you. I really appreciated your engagement and the questions. Thank you all so much. I hope to see you at the Facilitator training program soon, or the NLP, or somewhere, somehow, between Bangkok and Hua Hin. You know where I am. Until then, guys, please stay cool, stay awesome. Ciao, ciao. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.